Every servant in Mr. Hargrove's household had been warned about the East Wing caretaker. Celia Wynne ignored the warnings, because warnings did not pay debts, and her mother's sanatorium fees were due in 9 days. "The last housekeeper stayed 4 hours," said Mr. Aldrich, the butler, passing Celia a ring of iron keys. His fingers did not touch hers. "The one before her lasted 2 days. He does not want company. He does not want order. He does not want you." "Then he and I already have something in common," Celia said. She tucked the keys into her apron pocket and felt each one press cold against her hip. "Nobody wants me either. We shall get along." Aldrich blinked. He was not accustomed to housekeepers who talked back. He was less accustomed to women of 28 who smelled of lye soap and printer's ink, who counted the steps as they climbed them. She was already at 7, and who carried references from 3 households, each one praising her competence while declining to rehire her. "You count aloud," he observed. 14, she said, reaching the landing. "I find it steadies the nerves. Where is his room?" "At the end of the east corridor. He takes no meals. He answers no bells. He emerges at dusk and returns before dawn." Aldrich hesitated on the 15th step. "Miss Wynne, there is also the matter of Mr. Sable." Celia turned. "Who is Mr. Sable?" "The property manager. He oversees the Hargrove estate finances." Aldrich's voice dropped. "He is the one who dismissed your predecessors. He will arrive tomorrow to inspect the accounts. He does not approve of new hires he has not selected himself." "Then Mr. Sable and I shall also have something in common," Celia said. "Neither of us approves of the other yet." Aldrich almost smiled. Almost. She walked the east corridor alone, 17 paces. The wallpaper was damask, faded to the color of dried tea. The air tasted of dust and something else, something mineral, like the inside of a stone church in winter. She knocked on the door at the end of the hall. No answer. She knocked again. "I am the new housekeeper. The linen stores want organizing, and I need to know if you take your curtains open or closed." A voice came from the other side, rough as sand over wood. "I take them closed. Permanently." "Permanently is a long time," Celia said. "I shall put you down for closed then." "Do you eat breakfast?" Silence. Then, "No." "Luncheon?" "No." "Supper?" "I do not eat, Miss Wynne. Celia Wynne. And everyone eats, sir. Even difficult men who hide behind locked doors." She counted the brass rivets on the doorframe. 6. "I am not asking permission. I am asking preference." The lock turned. The door opened 3 inches. She saw a sliver of a man, pale jaw, dark hair that touched his collar, one gray eye regarding her as though she were a species he had not encountered before. "You speak to me as though I am any other man," he said. "Are you not?" He said nothing for a long time. Then, "I cannot remember the last person who thought so." "Well, I think so," Celia said. She felt the weight of the keys against her hip. "Curtains closed, no meals. I shall bring hot water for the washstand at 4:30. Good afternoon, Mr. Hargrove." She turned and walked away. 23 steps back down the corridor. She counted every one of them aloud, and she did not look back, though she felt his gaze follow her like warmth from a banked fire. He hadn't been treated as human in 3 centuries. She didn't know that yet. Morning brought Mr. Sable. He arrived in a carriage that smelled of leather and ambition. Celia heard the wheels on gravel while she was scrubbing the kitchen copper. 8 minutes past 9. She counted the delay between the carriage door and the front door. 12 seconds. A man who expected to be met. He found her before she could finish drying her hands. He was tall, narrow-shouldered, with a face built for disapproval. His cravat was pinned with a garnet. His eyes were the same shade, dark red, like old wine held to lamplight. "You are the new girl," he said. Not a question. "I am the new housekeeper." 28 is rather old for girl, Mr. Sable." His mouth thinned. "I did not authorize this appointment. Aldrich exceeded his station. You will collect your things and leave by noon. Aldrich acted on Mr. Hargrove's standing instructions, Celia said. She folded the drying cloth into thirds. The household requires a housekeeper. I am one, unless you intend to scrub the copper yourself. Mr. Hargrove does not give instructions. Sable moved closer. The garnet on his cravat caught the kitchen light. Mr. Hargrove has not spoken a coherent sentence to anyone in this house in over a year. He is for all practical purposes an invalid. The estate is managed by me. Its staff is selected by me. And I have selected no one. Then you have understaffed the house, Celia said. The linen stores have moth damage. The silver has not been polished since autumn. The east wing corridor has a damp patch that will cost £20 to repair if left another month. Shall I continue? Sable stared at her. Celia counted the silence. 5 seconds. 6. You have a sharp tongue for a woman in no position to use one, he said. Your mother is at the Whitmore Sanatorium, is she not? Fees overdue. One more missed payment and she is transferred to the county ward. The copper pan in Celia's hand went still. How do you know that? I know everything about everyone I might need to dismiss. He straightened his cuffs. Noon, Miss Wynne. Pack your things. He left the kitchen. The garnet on his cravat caught the light one final time, and then he was gone, and the room smelled of his cologne. Clove and something acrid, like ink left too long in the sun. Celia set down the pan. Her hands were steady. She counted the copper rivets on its handle. 4. She would not leave by noon. She would not leave at all. She climbed the stairs to the east corridor at 4:30, as promised, carrying a pitcher of hot water. 17 paces. She knocked. The door opened wider this time, 6 inches. She could see more of him now. Hollow cheeks, gray eyes that held an exhaustion deeper than any sleepless night could produce. He wore no coat, only a linen shirt, and the cuffs were unbuttoned. His hands were very still. Your hot water, Mr. Hargrove. He took the pitcher. His fingers brushed hers, and they were cold. Not cool. Cold, like river stones in January. Celia did not flinch. You are still here, he said. He sounded surprised. I am. Mr. Sable told me to leave by noon. It is now 4:30. I appear to be defective at following orders. She paused. 11 brass rivets on your doorframe, by the way. I miscounted yesterday. Something moved behind his eyes. Not amusement. Not yet. But the muscle memory of it. You count things. It steadies the nerves. What are you nervous about? Everything, Celia said. But I find if I count, the everything becomes a number, and numbers are manageable. He opened the door another inch. Sable will not let you stay. Sable does not own this house. You do. I own nothing, he said. Not anymore. You own this door, and you opened it. That is a start. She turned. I will bring hot water again tomorrow, same time. Miss Wynne. She stopped. 19 paces down the corridor, she turned back. Why did you take this position, he said. Because I need the wages. Why do you stay in that room? He did not answer. But he did not close the door until she had reached the stairs, and she counted every step he let her take in the open. The next 3 days settled into a pattern. Celia scrubbed, organized, inventoried. She found 7 varieties of moth damage in the linen closet and 3 broken window panes in the servants' hall. She kept a ledger of everything she repaired, every penny she spent from the household fund, every hour she worked. She brought hot water to Mr. Hargrove at 4:30. Each day the door opened a little wider. Each day their exchange lasted a little longer. He never emerged during daylight. She noticed but did not remark upon it. On the 3rd evening, she was polishing the banister when he appeared at the top of the stairs. Dusk. The last light came through the landing window and struck his face, and she saw him flinch from it. He stepped back into shadow. The banister does not need polishing at this hour, he said. The banister does not know what hour it is, Celia said, nor do I when I am elbow deep in beeswax. 42 spindles, by the way, I counted. He descended 3 steps, still in shadow. You have been here 3 days and you have already done more than any housekeeper in a decade. Your previous housekeepers were terrified of you. I am terrified of moth damage. We have different priorities. He almost laughed. The sound was small and rusted. Sable returned today. He was in the study going through the accounts. Celia's hand stopped on the banister. Going through the accounts? He does this periodically. He controls the household finances. He has done so for a long time. How long? Longer than you would believe. I believe quite a lot, Mr. Hargrove. I believe in moth damage and overdue sanatorium fees and property managers who know too much about their staff's personal debts. She resumed polishing. Is he stealing from you? The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of something old and heavy. I do not know, he said. I stopped looking at the accounts years ago. Decades. I stopped looking at most things. Then perhaps, Celia said, you should start again. She heard him take a breath. Vampires did not need to breathe, though she did not know that yet. He did it out of habit. 3 centuries of pretending. Morning brought Sable's second visit. This time he did not come to the kitchen. He went directly to the study and locked the door. Celia heard the lock turn from the hallway. She counted the seconds until she heard a drawer open. 14. She found Aldrich in the pantry. Mr. Sable is in the study with the accounts. Aldrich nodded. He did not look up from his inventory of dry goods. He does this every quarter. He told me he controls all the estate finances. Is that true? Mr. Sable has managed the estate since before I was hired, before most of us were hired. Aldrich's voice was careful. He holds Mr. Hargrove's power of attorney. He signs the checks. He pays the tradesmen, or does not pay them, as the case may be. Power of attorney, Celia repeated. On what grounds? On the grounds that Mr. Hargrove is unfit. That is the legal term Sable uses. Mental incapacity due to prolonged seclusion. Celia counted the jars of preserved plums on the pantry shelf. 9. Has a physician certified this incapacity? Aldrich finally looked up. Dr. Hale visits once a year. He is Sable's cousin. The picture assembled itself in Celia's mind like a jigsaw. A reclusive man, an estate manager with legal control, a compliant physician, money flowing through one pair of hands. I need to see the accounts, Celia said. They are locked in the study. Then I need the study key. There is only one, and Sable carries it. Then I need to be in that study before he locks it, Celia said. Tomorrow, when does he arrive? 9. I shall be there at 8. She was there at 7. The study smelled of leather bindings and cold ash. She found the ledger on the desk, open to the current quarter. The numbers were neat, too neat. Payments recorded for repairs she had already documented as undone. A new roof on the east wing. The east wing had no new roof. Replacement linens. The linens were moth-eaten. She copied the discrepancies into her own ledger. 14 entries. 14 fraudulent payments. She was on the 15th when the study door opened. Sable stood in the doorway. His garnet cravat pin caught the morning light. What are you doing in my study? He said. It is not your study. It is Mr. Hargrove's study. I am his housekeeper. I am checking the household expenditures against actual conditions. She did not stand. She did not close her ledger. 14 entries, Mr. Sable. 14 payments for work never completed. His face changed. The disapproval sharpened into something more dangerous. You are trespassing. You are dismissed, effective immediately. You cannot dismiss me. I was hired by the household, not by you. I hold power of attorney over this estate. I can dismiss anyone. He stepped forward. And I can ensure your mother is transferred to the county ward by week's end, not for missed payments, for disruptive family. One letter from me to the Whitmore board, which I sit on, incidentally, and the decision is made. Celia's hand tightened on her pen. She counted the lines on the page in front of her. 6. You sit on the Whitmore board. I sit on many boards, Miss Wynne. It is remarkable how much influence a man accumulates when he manages other people's money. He smiled. Put down the ledger, leave this house, and I will forget you were ever foolish enough to challenge me. 17, Celia said. I beg your pardon? 17 steps from this desk to the front door. I counted them yesterday. She stood. I will leave this room, Mr. Sable, but I will not leave this house, and I will not put down the ledger. She walked past him. He did not stop her, but she felt his gaze like a draft through a cracked window, cold and persistent. She went straight to the east corridor. It was still daylight, still too early. She knocked anyway. The door opened almost immediately. Hargrove stood in the dim room, curtains drawn, gray eyes sharp. I heard everything, he said. How? The study is 2 floors below. He did not answer the question. He is stealing from me. 14 entries I can prove. Probably more. She held up her ledger. But he holds your power of attorney. He has a physician willing to certify you as incapacitated. He controls your money and your staff. He just threatened to have my mother moved to a county ward. Hargrove's teeth ground together audibly. The tendons in his neck stood out like cords. He has threatened every person who has come close to discovering the truth. That is why no housekeeper stays. That is why no one stays. You knew? I suspected. I could not. He stopped. His knuckles, blanched white against the wood, gripped the doorframe. I have not left this corridor in years. I have not spoken to anyone in this house except through a closed door. The world moved, and I stopped moving with it. Sable filled the space I left empty. Then fill it again, Celia said. Come downstairs. Look at the accounts yourself. Let the household see that you are not incapacitated. I cannot go downstairs, not in daylight. Then at dusk. It is not. He paused. She watched his face with the same steady attention she gave to moth damage and fraudulent ledgers. You would not understand. Try me. Miss Wynne, I have not walked among people in 3 centuries. The words came out as though they had been sealed in a jar and the jar had finally cracked. Not 3 years, 3 centuries. Celia counted the silence between them. 4 heartbeats, 5. That is a very long time to go without breakfast. He stared at her, and then, unpracticed, rough, startled out of him like a bird from a hedge, he laughed. You are impossible, he said. So I have been told, 14 times in fact, by 14 different employers. She held up the ledger. We need a plan. Sable will act fast now that he knows I have the numbers. What resources do we have? None. He controls everything. Then we use what he does not control, the household staff, the physical evidence, the tradesmen who were never paid for work never done. She counted on her fingers. And you, a living, speaking owner who can walk into a solicitor's office and revoke a power of attorney. At night. Solicitors work late in this city, trust me, I have employed 3. He looked at her as though she were the first real thing he had seen in a very long time. Not with attraction, not yet, and perhaps not ever in the way of penny romances, but with something more fundamental. Recognition. Here was a person who saw him and did not flinch. You will lose your position, he said. Your wages, your mother's care. I have already lost those things before. They grow back. She paused. Mr. Hargrove, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Ask. Your hands are cold. You do not eat. You do not tolerate daylight. You heard a conversation 2 floors below through stone walls. She counted the observations on her fingers. 4. What are you? The room behind him was dark, absolutely dark. Not a single candle, not a single lamp. And yet she could see him perfectly, because he seemed to carry his own faint luminescence, like foxfire in an old forest. "I am what you think I am," he said. "I think you are a man who has been alone too long. Whatever else you are, that seems to be the more pressing problem." He closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were different. The gray had silvered, the pupils narrowed to points that were not quite human. "Does this frighten you?" Celia's heart hammered. She counted the beats. 7 in 5 seconds. Too fast. But her voice, when it came, was steady. "Yes," she said. "But Mr. Sable frightens me more, because he is human and he chooses to be cruel. You are whatever you are, and you have chosen to hide in a room rather than harm anyone. Those are different kinds of frightening." She stepped back. 1 step, 2. She needed distance. The counting helped. "I will come back at dusk. We will go over the accounts. We will find a solicitor. But I need the afternoon. To decide if you are staying. To decide if I am brave enough to stay. There is a difference." She walked away. 23 steps down the corridor. She counted every one. She did not look back. And this time, she did not feel his gaze. He had retreated into the dark. Celia spent the afternoon in the kitchen garden. The rosemary was overgrown. She cut it back with shears and counted the sprigs. 31. The repetition calmed her. What she had seen in his eyes was not natural. The silver, the narrowed pupils, the faint glow of his skin in a room with no light. She should leave. Every rational thought said leave. But the ledger in her apron held 14 lies. And her mother's sanatorium fees were due in 6 days. And Mr. Hargrove, whatever he was, had laughed when she made a joke about breakfast, and the laugh had sounded like something rescued from deep water. She went back at dusk. He was waiting in the corridor, outside his room, standing in the hall for the first time since she had arrived. He wore a dark coat now, properly buttoned, and he had combed his hair. He looked like a man preparing to rejoin the world after a long illness. "You came back," he said. "I count things," she said. "I counted the reasons to leave and the reasons to stay. The reasons to stay, 1 by 2. What were the 2? Your laugh, and my mother's sanatorium fees." She held up the ledger. "Shall we begin?" They worked in the study until midnight. Celia had lit every candle. 14 on the mantel, 6 on the desk, 4 in the wall sconces, 24 flames. Hargrove sat across from her and turned pages with hands that did not tremble. The discrepancies multiplied. Not 14 fraudulent entries, but 47. Payments to contractors who did not exist, rents collected from tenants and never deposited. A pattern stretching back years, decades. The sums were staggering. "He has drained the estate," Celia said, systematically, like bleeding a patient. Hargrove flinched at the metaphor. She noticed. "Sorry, poor choice of words. Apt, though." His voice was quiet. "I let this happen. I withdrew from everything. I let him take control because I could not bear to interact with a world that ages while I do not." "Self-pity is expensive," Celia said. 47 entries worth of expensive, apparently." He looked at her. "You are remarkably unsentimental. Sentiment does not pay sanatorium fees. Now, which solicitor in this city will see a client after dark and not ask inconvenient questions?" There was one. Mr. Crane on Blackwell Street. He handled the estate before Sable took over. Hargrove hesitated. "He may be dead. It has been 30 years since I last—" "His son practices," Aldrich said from the doorway. They both startled. The butler stood with a tray of tea, 1 cup for Celia, and an expression of careful neutrality. "Young Mr. Crane, same office, same hours, which are famously irregular." "Aldrich," Celia said, "you are eavesdropping." "I am serving tea, Miss Wynne. If conversation occurs within range of the tea tray, that is coincidence." Hargrove looked at his butler. Aldrich looked back. Something passed between them. The residue of decades of silent cohabitation, of loyalty expressed through hot water delivered on time and doors left unquestioned. "How long have you known?" Hargrove said. "About the accounts? Since the first false entry, sir. I am a butler. We notice everything and comment on nothing. He set down the tray. About you? Since I was 19 and saw you lift a fallen beam off the coal cellar door with one hand. You never said anything. You never asked, sir. And it was not my place. He straightened the teacup. Mr. Crane's office is on Blackwell Street, number 14. He keeps hours until 10. I suggest tomorrow evening. The next evening, Celia and Hargrove walked to Blackwell Street. It was the first time he had left the house in— she did not ask how long. She watched him move through the city at dusk. She saw the way he flinched at gas lamps, the way crowds parted around him without knowing why, the way he tilted his head to catch sounds she could not hear. Someone is following us, he said, at the corner of Morley Lane. Celia did not turn. Sable? His man, the one who drives his carriage. Then he knows we have left the house. He will know we are going to a solicitor. She counted her steps. 43 since the corner. We should move faster. They reached Crane's office. The younger Mr. Crane was a spare man with spectacles and an ink stain on his left cuff. He listened to Celia's account of the ledger discrepancies. He examined her notes. He asked questions that were sharp and specific. The power of attorney was filed with Dr. Hale's certification of incapacity, Crane said. To revoke it, Mr. Hargrove, you would need to appear before a magistrate and demonstrate competence, in person, during court hours. Court hours are daylight hours, Hargrove said. They are. Celia counted the books on Crane's shelf. 17. Is there an alternative? A sworn deposition, taken by a solicitor of record, with 2 witnesses of standing. I could file it with the court. The magistrate would review it, and if satisfied, revoke the power of attorney without a personal appearance. What constitutes standing? Celia said. A property holder, a clergyman, a professional man, not a servant, I am afraid. What about a housekeeper who has documented 47 instances of fraud? Crane looked at her over his spectacles. You are very direct, Miss Wynne. I count things, Mr. Crane. 47 fraudulent entries, 6 days until my mother is transferred to a county ward. And one very determined property manager who will not be pleased when he learns what we are doing. Crane nodded slowly. Bring me the ledger. Bring me 2 witnesses. And bring Mr. Hargrove. I will prepare the deposition. They walked home in silence. The city smelled of coal smoke and wet cobblestones. Somewhere a church bell counted the hour. 9. You did well, Hargrove said. I counted things and asked questions. That is not bravery. That is arithmetic. It is more than anyone has done for me in a very long time. Celia looked at him. The gaslight caught the silver in his eyes, and she did not look away. How long exactly? He did not answer, but he walked beside her all the way home, and when they reached the door, he held it open for her. His cold hand brushed the small of her back. Not a romantic gesture, a human one. The kind of thing a man does when he has remembered what it feels like to have someone beside him. Sable came the next morning. He did not knock. He walked into the kitchen where Celia was counting spoons, 43, 2 missing, and placed a document on the table. This is a writ of dismissal, he said, signed by the estate holder's legal representative, which is me. It is effective immediately. He placed a second document beside it. And this is a letter to the Whitmore Sanatorium Board, requesting the immediate transfer of your mother to the Beckford County Ward on grounds of the family's inability to maintain payments. Celia picked up the letter. She read it. Her hands were steady. You wrote this last night. I wrote it the moment my man told me you visited a solicitor on Blackwell Street. Sable straightened his garnet pin. You are meddling in affairs beyond your comprehension, Miss Wynne. Mr. Hargrove is a recluse with a documented mental incapacity. His affairs are legally mine. Any attempt to challenge this in court will be met with a counter-petition to have him committed to an asylum. An asylum, Celia repeated. The Hallworth Institution. for men of means whose families can no longer care for them. Sable's voice was soft, almost kind. The cruelty was in the kindness. I have the forms already prepared. Dr. Hale has agreed to sign them. One hearing before a magistrate, and Mr. Hargrove will be removed from this house permanently. Celia counted the spoons again. 43. You have been planning this. I have been protecting this estate from a man who cannot protect himself. I have done so for decades, and I will not allow a housekeeper with a sharp tongue and a shilling ledger to undo that work. He left. The kitchen smelled of clove cologne and old paper. Celia sat down at the table and pressed her palms flat against the wood. She counted the grain lines. She lost count at 30. She went to the east corridor. She did not wait for dusk. She knocked and spoke through the door. Sable is going to have you committed, she said. He has the forms, he has the physician, he has a letter that will move my mother to a county ward if I do not leave today. The door opened. Hargrove stood in full shadow, his silver eyes bright in the dark. Then leave, he said. No. Miss Wynne, your mother— my mother is ill. She is not dead. If she is moved, I will fight that too. But if I leave now, Sable wins everything, and you disappear into an asylum where no one will ever speak to you like a human being again. I am not a human being. You opened a door for me. You laughed at my joke about breakfast. You walked beside me through the city and held the door when we came home. She counted her breaths. 3. Those are human things. You may not be mortal, but you are human where it matters. He said nothing. She saw his hands grip the doorframe. His knuckles were white. I need witnesses of standing for the deposition, she said. Property holders or professional men. Who in this city would speak for you? No one. I have been dead to the world for decades. Then we make you alive again. She held up the ledger. Sable's fraud is documented. If we can get this before the right people, tradesmen he cheated, tenants whose rents he pocketed, they become our witnesses. They have standing. They have grievance. And they have every reason to see him removed. Hargrove looked at her with those ancient, exhausted silver eyes. You would risk your mother's care for this. I am risking my mother's care either way. The difference is whether I do it with a plan or without one. She paused. 23 tenants on the estate rolls. At least 4 are property holders. Aldrich can give me names. It will take days. We have 5. She worked for 3 of them. She visited tenants with Aldrich as escort. She carried her ledger and showed them the entries. Rent payments marked as received by Sable but never deposited. She found anger. She found willingness. She found 2 property holders and a retired solicitor who had suspected Sable for years but had no one to tell. On the 4th day, she returned to the house to find the study locked and her personal belongings stacked in the front hall. Aldrich stood beside them. His face was gray. Sable came with a locksmith. He changed the locks, your room, the study, the linen stores. He says you are trespassing. My belongings are here. He packed them? His man did. He also sent the letter to Whitmore, by morning post. Celia counted the items in the hall. Her carpet bag, her spare dress, her writing case. Her ledger was not among them. He took my ledger. He took everything from the study. Accounts, correspondence, your notes. The world narrowed to a single point. Without the ledger, the discrepancies were allegations, not evidence. Without evidence, the deposition was empty. Without the deposition, Sable's power of attorney stood, and Hargrove would face an asylum hearing with no one to speak for him. She sat on the hall bench. She pressed her palms flat and counted the tiles on the floor. 12. Then she stood. Where is Mr. Hargrove? Locked in his room. Sable's man fitted a bolt on the outside of the corridor door. A bolt. On the outside. She counted the implications. 1. Sable was escalating. 2. He expected the asylum hearing soon. 3. He was removing anyone who might interfere. Aldrich, can you get a message to Mr. Crane on Blackwell Street? I can. Tell him the evidence has been seized. Tell him we need the hearing move forward. Tell him. She paused. Tell him I am going to retrieve the ledger. Miss Wynne, the study is locked. Sable has the only key. Sable has the only key to the study, Celia said, but the study has windows, and I have a very steady head for heights, 14 feet from the garden wall to the study windowsill. I counted. Aldrich stared at her. You are going to climb. I am going to climb. Then I am going to unbolt a corridor door. Then I am going to bring a 300-year-old vampire to a solicitor's office, and we are going to end this. Aldrich opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I shall fetch a ladder. The study window was stiff but not locked. Sable had secured the doors and forgotten the windows. Celia counted this as his first real mistake. She found her ledger in the bottom drawer of the desk, beneath a stack of estate correspondence. She took both. Then she went to the east corridor and drew the bolt. The sound was loud in the silent house. 3 inches of iron sliding through its bracket. Hargrove stood on the other side. He looked diminished. His coat was rumpled, his hair was uncombed, his silver eyes had a flatness to them that she had not seen before. He bolted me in, he said. And I unbolted you. She held up the ledger. We have 4 hours until Crane's office closes. Can you walk? I can always walk. It is the choosing to that I had forgotten. He straightened his coat. He combed his hair back with his fingers. He looked at her with something that was not affection. Not yet, and perhaps not ever in the way of stories, but with gratitude so deep it had its own gravity. 12 steps to the stairs, Celia said. I counted. You count everything. Everything except the things that matter. Those I just do. They reached Crane's office at 7:30. The retired solicitor and 1 property-holding tenant were already there, summoned by Aldrich's message. Crane prepared the deposition. Hargrove spoke clearly, precisely, with the careful diction of a man who had been saving his words for decades. The witnesses signed. Crane signed. The documents were ready for filing. I will present these to the magistrate at first light, Crane said. If the court accepts them, Sable's power of attorney will be revoked by noon. Sable has an asylum petition, Celia said. Dr. Hale's signature. He will file it the moment he learns what we have done. Then we must ensure the revocation is filed first. Whoever reaches the magistrate's desk first controls the proceeding. I will be there at first light, Celia said. I can carry the documents. You are not a solicitor, Miss Wynne. No. But I am a woman who can count, and I can count on being at the courthouse door before Sable finishes his breakfast. She picked up the documents. Mr. Crane, I need one more thing. A copy of the fraudulent entries, certified by your hand, to present as evidence of Sable's mismanagement. Crane prepared it. Celia took both sets of documents, folded them into thirds, the way her mother used to fold napkins for guests who never came, and placed them inside her writing case. She was at the courthouse at 6:30. She counted the steps from the pavement to the clerk's window. 31. She was the first person in the queue. The clerk accepted the filing at 7. Sable arrived at 9:15. She was standing in the courthouse foyer when he walked through the doors, asylum petition in hand. Dr. Hale at his side. He saw her. He stopped. His garnet pin caught the morning light. Miss Wynne. His voice was controlled. You have no business here. I filed a revocation of your power of attorney 2 hours ago, Celia said, along with certified evidence of 47 fraudulent estate transactions bearing your signature. The magistrate has already accepted both documents. Sable's face did not change, but his hand tightened on the asylum petition. Those ledger entries are fabricated. They are corroborated by 2 witnesses of standing, a retired solicitor, and a tenant who can testify that his rent was collected by your office and never deposited to the estate account. She counted the people in the foyer. 11. 3 clerks, 2 barristers, 4 members of the public, Dr. Hale and Sable, all watching. You may file your asylum petition, Mr. Sable. But the magistrate will read it alongside evidence that you have been systematically defrauding the man you claim to protect. I do not think the comparison will favor you." Dr. Hale took a step back. He looked at Sable. He looked at the asylum petition. He looked at Celia. Then he turned and walked out of the courthouse without a word. Sable stood alone. The foyer was quiet. 11 pairs of eyes on him. "You are a housekeeper," he said. His voice was thin. "I am a housekeeper who counts things," Celia said. "And you, Mr. Sable, did not count on that." He left. He walked through the courthouse doors and did not look back. His carriage was waiting. Celia counted the seconds until the wheels began to turn. 8. She never saw him again. The magistrate revoked the power of attorney before noon. By evening, the estate accounts were transferred to Mr. Crane's management. By the following morning, Celia sent a bank order to the Whitmore Sanatorium covering 6 months of fees. She wrote the amount in her ledger. She did not count it aloud. Some numbers were too large for steadying. She brought hot water to the east corridor at 4:30, as always. The door was already open. Hargrove stood in the hall, dressed properly, his coat buttoned, his hair combed. The corridor smelled of beeswax. He had polished the doorframe himself. 11 brass rivets, he said. "You were right the second time." "I am always right the second time. The first time is just practice." He stepped into the hall. The late afternoon light touched the edge of his sleeve. He did not flinch. He stood in it, not comfortably but willingly, the way a man stands in cold water when he has decided to swim. "What happens now?" he said. "Now I organize the linen stores, then I address the moth damage, then I find the 2 missing spoons." She set down the pitcher. "And you come downstairs for supper." "I do not eat." "You sit at the table, you hold a glass of something, you let Aldrich serve you, you practice being in a room with other people." She counted the candles on the hall table. 3. 300 years is a long time to eat alone. "I told you, I do not eat." "Then it will be a very economical supper." He looked at her. The silver in his eyes had softened. Not gone. It would never be gone, but gentled, like a blade returned to its sheath. "Miss Wynne," he said, "I do not know how to thank someone. I have forgotten the mechanism. The mechanism is simple. You say thank you, then I say you are welcome. Then we go about our business as though nothing extraordinary has happened." "Something extraordinary has happened." "Yes, you left your room. That is quite enough extraordinariness for 1 week." He extended his hand. She took it. His fingers were still cold. They would always be cold. But his grip was firm, and he held on for exactly the right amount of time. Not too long, not too brief, the way a man holds the hand of someone he trusts. "Thank you," he said. "You are welcome," Celia said. "Now come downstairs." I counted 31 steps. Try not to fall. 3 weeks later, Celia stood in the kitchen garden cutting rosemary. The evening was warm. The house behind her glowed with lamplight from every window. Hargrove had ordered every curtain opened at dusk, every room lit, every door unlocked. The house breathed again. She heard his footsteps on the garden path. She did not need to count them anymore. She knew the sound of him the way she knew the weight of her own keys. "Aldrich says the new linens arrived," he said, standing beside the rosemary bed. 12 sets. I counted twice. The moths will be devastated." He picked a sprig of rosemary and turned it between his cold fingers. She watched him smell it, deliberately, as though teaching himself what rosemary was for. "I went to the village today," he said. She looked up. "In daylight?" "Near enough. Late afternoon. The baker was still open. I bought a loaf of bread." He paused. "I do not need bread." "No." "I bought it because purchasing bread from a baker is a human thing to do, and I'm trying to remember what that feels like." Celia set down her shears. She counted the rosemary sprigs in her basket. 9. She looked at him. This ancient, impossible, quietly determined man who had bought a loaf of bread he could not eat because a housekeeper had told him to come downstairs. "Where is the bread now?" she said. "In the kitchen. I gave it to Aldrich. He looked at me as though I had handed him a comet." Celia smiled. The evening air carried rosemary and warm stone. Somewhere in the house, a clock struck 7. The old mantel clock she had repaired on her second day, the one that had been silent for years until she'd counted its gears and wound them back to life. 7 o'clock, she said. "Time for supper. You will sit at the table. You will hold a glass. You will be in a room with people who are glad you are there." He set the rosemary sprig in her basket. 9 sprigs, he said. "You counted." "I am learning." They walked inside together. The kitchen door was open, and through it came the smell of fresh bread. His bread, being sliced by Aldrich's careful hands, placed on a board she had scrubbed herself. The table was set for 3, not a grand table, not a lord's table, a kitchen table, with honest china and clean linen and a lamp that threw warm light across 3 places where, for the first time in a very long while, no one sat alone.